get in, close the door. Where to? Doesn't matter. We're going to São Paulo, Pinheiros neighborhood. 1960s. Picture this, São Paulo in the middle of the military dictatorship. Conservative, traditional, repressive. And in that world, a man named Francisco Chagas Rodrigues de Brito is living a double life. By day, he's charming, well-dressed, works in nightclubs, knows everyone. By night, he picks up women, takes them to hotel rooms, and dismembers them. They called him Chico Picadinho, Little Chico the Chopper. August 1966, a hotel room in São Paulo. A maid opens the door for the daily cleaning. She finds a woman's body, butchered, cut into pieces, blood everywhere. The woman's name was Margareth Suida. She was a cabaret dancer, 26 years old. Police found her head in a suitcase, her torso in the bathtub, her limbs scattered around the room. The man who rented the room, Francisco Chagas Chico, he checked in with Margareth the night before, left alone in the morning, calm, unbothered, like nothing had happened. Police arrested him within hours. He confessed, said he didn't know why he did it, said something just came over him, said he blacked out. Psychiatric evaluation, diagnosis, severe personality disorder, sadistic tendencies, but legally sane. Trial, conviction. 1967, sentenced to 18 years in prison. But here's where it gets worse. In 1974, after serving just 8 years, Chico Picadinho was released. Good behavior, model prisoner, reformed, they said. And then, 3 years later, he did it again. Tonight, we're going to São Paulo. We're going back to 1966 and 1977. We're going to talk about what happens when a man who dismembers women is released early and does exactly what everyone should have known he'd do. You ready? Good. Because this one doesn't end with justice. It ends with a question about who we believe can be reformed and who we're willing to risk setting free. Let me tell you about Chico Picadinho, the man who killed twice because the system gave him a second chance. Francisco Chagas Rodrigues de Brito, born 1942, Northeast Brazil. Poor family. Moved to São Paulo as a young man looking for work. By the early 1960s, he was working in São Paulo's nightlife scene. Nightclubs, bars, cabarets. He was good-looking, charming, knew how to talk to women, but people who knew him said there was something off. A coldness behind the charm, an intensity that didn't match the smile. By 1966, Chico was in his mid-20s, single, living alone, frequenting the same clubs and bars where he worked, and he was hunting. August 12, 1966, Chico met Margareth Suida at a nightclub in São Paulo. She was a cabaret dancer, beautiful, independent, 26 years old. They talked, danced, drank. Chico invited her back to a hotel. She agreed. They checked into the Hotel Maraba in Pinheiros around midnight. What happened in that room over the next several hours is reconstructed from forensic evidence and Chico's later confession. Chico and Margareth had sex, consensual at first, and then something in Chico snapped. He attacked her, strangled her, and then, after she was dead, he began cutting. He dismembered her body, methodically, room by room, her head in a suitcase, her torso in the bathtub, her limbs in plastic bags. He cleaned himself up, got dressed, left the hotel in the morning. Unbothered, the maid found Margaret's body around 10 a.m. Police arrived, immediately identified the scene as a homicide, dismemberment, extreme violence. They reviewed the hotel registry, found the name, Francisco Chagas. Within hours, they arrested him. Chico didn't run, didn't hide, didn't resist. When questioned, he confessed, said he didn't know why he did it, said he blacked out, said he couldn't remember the details. Psychiatric evaluation was ordered. 3 psychiatrists evaluated Francisco Chagas. Their conclusion, severe personality disorder, sadistic tendencies. possible dissociative episodes, but critically, legally sane. He understood right from wrong. He knew what he was doing was illegal. He tried to cover it up by leaving the hotel calmly. Under Brazilian law, that meant he was criminally responsible. Trial began in 1967. Prosecution presented the forensic evidence, the confession, the psychiatric reports. Defense argued diminished capacity, mental illness, lack of premeditation. The jury convicted him, sentenced to 18 years in prison. At the time, it was one of the most notorious crimes in São Paulo. The media covered it obsessively. The dismemberment, the cold-blooded nature, the charming killer. Chico Picadinho became a household name, and then, 8 years later, he was released. After serving just 8 years of his 18-year sentence, Chico Picadinho was released on parole. Under Brazilian law at the time, prisoners could be released early for good behavior. Chico had been a model prisoner. No incidents, no violence. Participated in rehabilitation programs. Psychiatrists reevaluated him, said he was stable, medicated, reformed. The parole board approved his release. He walked out of prison in 1974, free. Chico returned to São Paulo, got a job, stayed out of trouble. For 3 years, he lived quietly. And then, 1977, October 6, 1977, Chico met a woman named Ângela de Souza at a nightclub in São Paulo. She was a prostitute, 32 years old. They left together, went to a hotel. What happened next was almost identical to 1966. Chico strangled Ângela, dismembered her body, left calmly in the morning. The maid found Ângela's body. Police arrived, reviewed the registry. Francisco das Chagas. Again. Police arrested Chico within hours. This time, he didn't confess immediately. He denied it, said he didn't do it, said someone was framing him. But the evidence was overwhelming. Forensic match, hotel records, witnesses who saw them together. Eventually, he confessed, said the same thing he said in 1966, said he blacked out, said he didn't know why, said he thought he was cured. The trial in 1978 was even more sensational than the first. The media called him a monster, said the system had failed, said early release had enabled a second murder. Psychiatrists testified that Chico's personality disorder was untreatable, that he would always be a danger, that releasing him had been a mistake. The jury convicted him again, this time sentenced to 30 years. No parole, no early release. Chico Picadinho would spend the rest of his functional life in prison. Chico remained in the Brazilian prison system for decades. By the 1990s and 2000s, he was elderly, in declining health. In 1998, he was transferred to a psychiatric hospital due to age and mental deterioration. He died in 2013. He was 71 years old. He never expressed genuine remorse, never fully explained why he did what he did, just said he didn't know, said something came over him. So what really happened with Chico Picadinho? Let's talk about the theories. Chico has severe personality disorder, sadistic tendencies, possibly dissociative episodes. The killings were the result of mental illness. He genuinely couldn't control himself. Evidence, psychiatric evaluations, consistent pattern, lack of clear motive. Problem, if he couldn't control himself, why did he function normally for 3 years between murders? Why did he cover his tracks? Why did he flee calmly? Some psychologists believe Chico killed during moments of sexual arousal turned violent, that the dismemberment was part of a sexual compulsion. Evidence, both victims were women he'd had sexual contact with. The violence escalated post-mortem. Problem, Chico never admitted to sexual motivation, and the dismemberment seemed methodical, not frenzied. Chico dismembered the bodies to hide evidence, to make identification harder, to delay discovery. The killings were premeditated. Evidence, he brought tools, he cleaned up, he left calmly. Problem, if it was premeditated, why return to the exact same pattern in 1977? Why not change his method? Chico was released in 1974 because the system prioritized rehabilitation over public safety. Early parole, good behavior credits, optimistic psychiatric evaluations, and a woman died because of it. This is the most supported theory, and the one that haunts the case. Should Chico have been released in 1974? Psychiatrists who evaluated him said he was stable, reformed, but they were wrong, and Ângela de Souza paid the price. This case became a turning point in Brazilian criminal justice. After Chico's second conviction, Brazil began restricting early release for violent offenders. Parole became harder to obtain. Psychiatric evaluations became more rigorous. Chico Picadinho's name became shorthand for the dangers of releasing violent criminals too early. Margareth Suida was 26 years old, a dancer. She went to a hotel with a man she thought was charming. Ângela de Souza was 32 years old, a sex worker, trying to survive. Both were dismembered by the same man, 11 years apart, because the system decided Chico Picadinho deserved a second chance, and he used that chance to kill again. How do we balance rehabilitation with public safety? How do we know when someone is truly reformed? And when we get it wrong, who pays the price? Chico Picadinho is dead now. Died in 2013. Spent most of his life in prison. But Margareth and Ângela are still dead too. And the question his case poses is still unanswered. Can someone like Chico Picadinho be rehabilitated? Or are some people just broken beyond repair? I don't know the answer. But I know this. In 1974, psychiatrists and parole boards thought they knew. And they were wrong. The meter's off. São Paulo is loud tonight, still full of nightclubs, still full of people looking for connection. And somewhere in the archives, there's a file labeled Francisco das Chagas Rodrigues de Brito. Chico Picadinho, the man who killed twice, because the system gave him the chance. There's an ancient principle about justice and mercy. That mercy is beautiful. That offering second chances is noble. But that mercy without wisdom is dangerous. That some people, when given a second chance, will use it to harm again. Chico Picadinho was given mercy in 1974, released early, given a second chance, and 3 years later, he killed Ângela de Souza. The psychiatrists who recommended his release believed in rehabilitation, believed people could change. They were wrong, and a woman died because of it. There's a warning in ancient wisdom about the weight of authority, that those who make decisions carry responsibility for the outcomes. The parole board that released Chico in 1974 made a decision, and that decision had consequences. Not for them. They didn't face charges, didn't lose their jobs. But for Ângela de Souza, who trusted a system that had already failed once. I think about the moment Chico left prison in 1974. Did he believe he was cured? Did he think the darkness was gone? Or did he know, somewhere deep, that it was still there, waiting? We'll never know, because Chico never told the truth about what drove him. Just said he didn't know, said he blacked out. Maybe that was true, or maybe it was easier than admitting he enjoyed it. There's a promise in ancient wisdom that justice will come, that the guilty will be held accountable. Chico was held accountable. Eventually, spent most of his life in prison, died there. But Margareth and Ângela never got their lives back. Their families never got closure. And the system that released Chico in 1970 for never fully acknowledged its failure. That's the weight we carry when we talk about mercy and second chances. That sometimes the cost is borne by someone else. Hey, thanks for taking this ride with me tonight. This one's complicated. No easy answers. Should violent offenders get second chances? Should we believe in rehabilitation even when it fails? If this case made you think, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that don't have clean endings. Cases that force us to wrestle with hard questions. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Should Chico have been released in 1974? What does rehabilitation look like for someone like him? I read everyone. Share this with someone who's interested in criminal justice, in the balance between mercy and safety, in the systems that try and sometimes fail to protect us. Next case. New story. Same cab. Until then, remember, second chances are beautiful, but they come with risk, and sometimes that risk is paid by someone who never got a choice.